Hey friend, welcome to the Halfway to Dead podcast. I'm your host, Jen Lovell. Listen, you and I have reached that age where we are done with the bullshit. We know that midlife is our chance to flip the script and experience life on our own terms. It's time to reconnect with our higher selves and reclaim our inner peace. Are you ready with an open heart and an open mind? Awesome, you're in the right place. Hop in and ride shotgun with me on this midlife spiritual journey. Hey, pod friends. So today I interviewed Tara Redfield. Tara is a certified modern astrologer and founder of Another Day Greener Astrology. She also co-hosts the highly rated astrology podcast, It's a Sign, The Art of Alignment. She's also authored a book called The Best Time of Year for Your Career, How to Work with Astrology for Optimal Results. She loves helping women to see their true identity, gifts, energy blocks, and full potential through interpreting their natal charts in one-on-one sessions. Each planet holds valuable information about personality traits, natural talents, struggles, ultimate purpose, and areas of life that should be focused on. So today we're talking natal charts. She tells us a little bit about her story. We talk about what a modern astrologer is, and then we go over all the things about your natal chart. She gives us the basic rundown of not just our zodiac sign, like what's your sign? No, there's so much more than that, you guys. We talk about the different planets, the different houses things fall in, how we chose to be born at that exact moment because these energies will guide us through this lifetime. Anyway, we go into it all. She breaks it down, and then we really focus on astrological transits that we experience in midlife. So regardless of what your chart looks like, we all experience these transits, 2 or 3 of them in our 40s. And then once we get into our 50s, there's another big one. Okay. And this is all going to make sense to you why midlife feels like it does when she explains some of this. We talk about what you should actually be looking at in your horoscope. And I bet you're reading the wrong one because it's not just your zodiac sign you're supposed to be looking at. We talk about all these things today. Let's jump in because Tara tells us all about this whole modern astrology. Hey, Tara, thanks for being with me today.
Hi, Jen. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
You call yourself a modern astrologer.
That is correct.
So what's the difference? What makes you a modern astrologer versus the old school?
Right. So there is traditional astrology and there is modern astrology. Traditional astrologers use the planets that were first discovered, like the first planets that were visible thousands of years ago, before we had the invention of the telescope in the early 1900s, which then we were able to see the planets Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune. So traditional astrologers do not use those 3 planets. Modern astrologers do use those 3 planets. So that is the difference.
That's the biggest difference. Okay.
Yes, Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune.
Which probably gives you way more insight too.
Yeah. In traditional astrology, the planets kind of double up. So like Mars rules Aries and Scorpio. But in modern astrology, we assign Scorpio to Pluto. So Pluto takes away that extra weight from Mars. But obviously in my practice, I feel like it's very accurate interpreting the new planets.
Okay, perfect. What led you to where you are right now? To becoming an astrologer, reading natal charts for people. Is there a journey that got you to where you are today?
Yeah, I would say so. I was always interested in astrology. Even when I was a little girl, my mom would buy me little astrology books, and she actually had a store and she carried these little astrology books in her store. And I would just spend like hours while she was working. I would just go in a corner and be reading, and so-and-so's an Aries and I'm a Sagittarius. And this description is so cool. I just was always very fascinated by it and always resonated with it. But it wasn't until, within the last 5 years or so that I really decided, I could do this professionally. It was always just, a hobby.
Yeah.
Reading horoscopes and always just being interested in it. But so, yes, I had a life path that took me in a lot of different directions. Before I became an astrologer, I studied theater in college. I lived in Los Angeles for 14 years. I pursued acting. I did stand-up comedy. I had a food blog for 10 years. I had a social media business. I mean, I've always been creative. That has always
Yes.
been like a core thing with me.
Uh-huh.
I have to be creating something or writing something or whatever it is. But yeah, with this astrology, though, always just kind of being in the background and not even something I really talked about with other people. I was never to my friends, oh, do you know what's going on with your son? It wasn't anything like that. I just kind of something I
Yeah.
did on my own. But then I decided I just had this like gut feeling in 2019. I really want to take this more seriously. I really want to study this. So sure enough, I was still living in LA and I was like, there's got to be, schools or classes. I live in Los
Yeah.
Angeles. Sure enough, I found the
Yeah.
Los Angeles astrology school. It was a 15-minute walk from my apartment.
Okay, so that was
And
meant to be.
yeah. So I studied, I really, learned the process and it just felt, yeah, I mean, it sounds corny or whatever, but it felt so aligned. I just felt like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Ah,
And then after I completed my training there, I was also invited to become an instructor. So I was teaching beginner astrology classes online. And a lot of
mhm.
this was all kind of happening, early 2020. This was like we went into lockdowns and it was a
Oh,
really crazy
yeah.
time.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I just felt like this time is so perfect for me to really immerse myself in
Yeah,
this
you had
and
the
to
time
really
to dig into something like that.
yeah, and
Yeah.
to take it seriously.
Okay.
And being a Sagittarius, I very much am a risk taker. And
Yeah.
once I decide I'm going to do something, I just do it. I don't really think
Yeah.
I figure it out as I go. So I, still had at this point, I had social media clients I was working with, and I just
Mhm.
was like, I gotta let this go. I really want to do this full time. This is my calling. It took me,
Yeah.
it took me till my late 30s to figure it out, but this is what I meant to be doing. Then I just decided I'm going to do readings full time, built my website, built my practice, built my newsletter, built up my social media, right? All the things.
Yeah.
And here I am. And I'm so just so fulfilled and so happy doing this work because I think it is such an important tool. The I mean, the reactions I get from people after they have their
Yeah.
chart read, and how much it helps. And it helped me I mean, I know when I had my chart read for the first time, it unlocked just so much for me that I
Things
had
made
never,
sense.
things made so much sense. And
Yes.
again, I say it as like, I didn't have to feel like I was a prisoner to like these patterns or these things it was like,
Yeah, it
oh
feels like
no, these
validation.
are yes, and it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, and now that I know it, now I can fix it. Now I know what I need to do."
Yeah. All right. We're going to talk about this, you guys. We got to figure out this natal chart thing. So, give us the basics of what our natal chart is and what we can
Great,
learn from it.
great
Yeah.
starting point. So, the
Mhm.
natal chart is snapshot of the sky, the very moment you are born. And I
Mhm.
really do believe this is a specific pattern, a very specific alignment of planets that your soul chooses. This is the map I want to come into the world. This is the map of the planets I am choosing so I can fulfill these goals, this destiny that I have made in my soul contract, right? These
Yes.
are the experiences I want to have. This is what I want to learn. This is where I want to maybe have some harder lessons in these areas. And the chart really tells us that. So,
So, yeah. So, because some people who are highly religious or anything get a little bit weird about some of this stuff. But
sure.
here's my thought. And I'm just spitballing here, but here's my thought. So, we make all these plans before we come, lessons we want to learn, the lives we want to
Hmm.
live. And I think that this alignment, like you said, of the planets, of all of this, it's
Hmm.
energy. And I
Yes.
feel like God, the divine
Yep.
source, whatever you're going with, I think this was probably part of the plan to help this energy control us because we forget everything we planned. So how are we going to follow through? Well, if we have this energy source, which the planets, the sun,
Hmm.
the moon, all the things, it helps us be that person we wanted to be because it's
Hmm.
energy. This is my thought about it. What do you think? Does that sound
Absolutely.
right? Okay.
Yeah. And
So,
that's one of the things, the difference or whatever you want to say, the arguments between astrology and astronomy, right?
mhm,
Because astronomers, well, and let's be honest, thousands of years ago, they were intertwined. It was this astrology and astronomy were linked. They were part of the
Yeah.
same science. They were part of the same belief system. Then eventually they separated, and now it's like astronomy looks down on astrology. It's woo-woo. It's this. It's
Oh,
real.
yeah.
We can't prove. But I literally took an astronomy course
hmm
because I felt like I wanted that in my education as well.
Yeah.
Took an astronomy course, right? And we're talking about how the reason the solar system, right, the reason it's in the shape that it's in, that the planets rotate the way that they do, that they're spaced out the way that they are, is
hmm
because of gravity. The gravitational force keeps our solar system intact.
Yes.
So you're telling me there's a gravitational force, which also, yes, is energy, but you
hmm
don't believe that doesn't affect us on Earth?
Oh, yeah,
I
for sure
don't,
it does.
yeah, if these plants are being held through energy and gravity, of course, us as humans on Earth are going to be affected
There's a
by that
connection. There's
energy.
a pull. Yeah.
So anyway,
Okay.
that's my
No, that's what I think
little
too.
take
So
there.
you plan to be born at this specific time, you guys, is what we're saying, with these planets all aligned in this specific way
Mhm.
because it's part of your path. So that's why I feel like getting a natal chart reading helps you understand who you are, what you're supposed to be doing, what challenges that you're facing,
Right,
all lines up on this natal chart.
right.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, most people do end up living their chart, regardless if they're aware of what their chart is or not.
No, that's very true. Yeah.
Right?
I had my natal reading with her last week, you guys, my natal chart reading. And I'll just say it's spot on. It really is. And I've had things read before, but I will say when Tara read mine, she explains it in a way that's like easier to understand because I have had other natal chart readings with highly educated people who just got so in depth. I was confused at the end.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got to listen back. You're like, wait, what just happened? But with Tara, I did feel like you stop, you say, okay, so this could look like this in your life or this, so
Mhm.
that you can get those connections with it and feel like, no, that's totally me because we had never met before my reading. So you didn't really
Nope.
know my personality. You knew nothing about my life, like zero. So she literally was just going off my chart when she was telling me things and they lined up perfectly. I was like, that's me. That's me. Yep, that's right. And even more than that, it tells you about you, feels validating, but then you also give insights into what's coming this year. Like we talked about what's coming this year for me. We
Mhm.
talked about where I'm at, in my life cycle, all these things. So it's really cool like that. So, all right, let's go a little bit more into the logistics of what makes up the natal chart so people understand. And if you guys have used that link to pull your chart up, also, how important is it for everybody out there who's like, I know everything but what time I was born? We need to figure that out, right? To be very specific about this.
Yes. So you can cast a natal chart, okay, without an accurate birth time. What we
Okay.
do is we set it for noon, just kind of a neutral time.
Right.
Okay. We can interpret the planets. Okay. We can still read for the planets, meaning no matter what time you were born on your birthday,
The planets
the
are where they
the
are.
moon
Yeah.
is going to be in the same place, the sun is going to, right? All the planets will be in the same place. So we can
Okay.
absolutely interpret those planets, those sign placements, etc.
Okay.
But if you have your exact birth time, we are able to also calculate what we call the rising sign. And the
hmm
rising sign is important because then it sets up the rest of your chart. And then we're getting into, what houses your planets are in. So, and just to back up a little bit, most people, when they think of, oh, my horoscope, my sign, da da da, you think of your sun sign. But yeah,
Yes,
there
that's
are
the main thing.
also,
We
right.
all know, hey, what's your sign? Pisces. A lot of us have figured that much out, and that's about it.
So first, I'll just do a rundown of the 12 signs. Then we can talk about and who's a fire sign and then we have, the
Water and all that.
modalities. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, every sign has its positive traits and its shadow
hmm
traits.
Yes.
And depending on how you choose to evolve, you could be stuck in the more shadow places of the sign. Or if you're evolving, you're going to be embracing the more positive characteristics of that sign. So, Aries, impulsive, energetic, competitive, enthusiastic, right? They're risk takers, they're great leaders. On the shadow side, impulsive, very reactive, argumentative, right? Combative. That can be Aries. Taurus, they're very loyal. They're gentle. They have wonderful aesthetic tastes, right? They're great designers and artists. They are very sensual, meaning they pick up on the senses. They know how to make things look good, how to make things smell good, those kinds of things. But they can also they can be very stubborn. They can get very stuck in their ways, can have a hard time with change. They can also be very possessive of things and people in their lives. So then that gets into a little bit of controlling behavior sometimes. Then we have Gemini. Okay, Gemini, we're in Gemini season right now as we're recording, just started
Okay,
it.
Geminis, listen up.
Geminis are the storytellers. They are talkers, thinkers, writers, anything about communication, Geminis love. They're also very funny. They're very clever, right? If you've got a Gemini at a party, you're going to have a great time because they're going to be just asking great questions, all this stuff. They're curious. Downside of Gemini, they can get very scattered. They can have a hard time focusing because they are drawn in so many different directions. They're so interested in so many different things. They can have a hard time focusing. And yes, sometimes it is more of a stereotype, but it is a little bit true with Gemini because they can also fall into the gossip scene. And they
Okay.
can sometimes like to tell a story just to tell a story. Maybe all the facts aren't true, but they're going to tell it anyway. So that's something with Gemini you need to really make sure, but do I have the facts? Do I have the truth before I repeat the story?
Okay.
And then let's get into Cancer. Okay, Cancers are very nurturing. They're emotionally supportive. They are family oriented. They are home oriented. Most of them love cooking and baking and spending time at home, making people feel comfortable. They're also very emotional, very sensitive. Shadow sides of Cancer, they can be very moody, and you kind of might not know where's their mood going to go next. They can also take things very personally. So that's like everything is, oh, they did that because of this, and it's about me. And they can have a hard time just kind of relaxing, like, you know what, I'm going to let that go. It probably wasn't about me. They can also have a hard time letting go of the past. Cancer, right? Little crab claws. They like to cling to old relationships, cling to the past. So Cancers really need to learn to let go of the past and learn how to be present more. That's something, for Cancers. Then we have our Leos, right? Leos, known for their confidence, their courage, their pride, their ability to draw attention to themselves, which isn't necessarily on purpose. Sometimes it is because, yes, Leos do appreciate recognition and attention, but sometimes they can just be going about their business, but there's something about them that people just look at them and they're fascinated by Leos just because of kind of the way they carry themselves. So shadow traits of Leo, arrogance is something they need to watch out for, right? Just kind of being like bossy, I'm in charge. We call it like king or queen complex, where they can kind of just assume everybody's just working for me and I can do whatever I want. So that's something with Leo. And then we have our Virgos. Okay, Virgos are the helpers. They love to help. They love to be of service. They love to do things for other people and tangible things specifically, right? Like they love to run errands for a friend who needs something, or I'm going to drop off soup at my friend's house because I know they're sick. That's very Virgo. They're also very efficient. Okay. If you need a job done really well, give it to a Virgo because they are going to be efficient. They are going to notice all the details. And they're going to get the job done quickly. Now, shadow traits of Virgo, perfectionistic. They can be critical. That's because they notice so many details, they can focus in on, oh, that one little thing's wrong. I got to fix it, right? They can also be the fixers, focusing on the flaws instead of, but the rest of the thing looks really good, but they're going to hyper fixate on that one little thing that's wrong. So Virgos need to give themselves a break. Turn off that critical voice and be a little kinder to themselves and realize we're all just doing the best we can and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Libras, okay? Our Libras are the peacekeepers. They love to have balance in their lives. And yes, they are partnership oriented. Most of them, it's hard to find a single Libra just because they just love that dynamic of we're a twosome, we're a pair, we're a team, we're
Okay.
doing this together. There's the balance here. They're also very interested in what's beautiful and creating an environment that's beautiful and noticing what's beautiful in life. On the shadow side with that, yeah, they can be vain sometimes, like too obsessed with their looks or beauty or putting
Mm-hmm.
too much weight on that. They can also actually, because they do spend so much time thinking about other people, they can be self-neglecting. So a Libra might all of a sudden be like, wow, everyone around me has everything they need. Well, what about me? I've been ignoring myself. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something for Libras. They need to remember, also pay attention to their own needs. And we have Scorpio. Okay, Scorpio, mysterious, intense. They're here to live a life of transformation. Scorpios are going to go through intense experiences that continually transform them. This can be death of family members or just any significant loss they are likely
Okay.
to experience. But because of that, they become incredibly resilient and they learn how to own their power because it is a powerful sign. Because every time they have to rise from the ashes, they're stronger.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
yes, and also, right, again, emotional. There's emotional intensity with Scorpio, and they're very deep. They are not people that want to have just kind of lighthearted conversations. Like they want to know the depths of your soul. Okay, that's
Yeah.
Scorpio.
No small talk. Yep.
Yeah, right. Shadow side of Scorpio, sometimes they can, yes, be vengeful, hold grudges. Also, the main thing with Scorpio actually is control. Scorpio has a really hard time letting go and letting things just operate as the universe planned. Scorpio likes to hold things really tightly, doesn't want to be surprised, doesn't want to be blindsided, wants
Okay.
to
Yeah.
really, yeah, have control in a lot of areas of their life. But ultimately, having all that control, gripping everything so tightly creates blockages for them. And things have a harder
Mm.
time working
Yeah.
out when they're holding on so tightly. Sagittarius. Sagittarius are the adventurers, the explorers. They're very optimistic. They are always looking to learn new information. What's next on the horizon? And big thinkers, they want to live a big life.
Mm-hmm.
Sagittarius. Shadow side of Sagittarius, they love honesty and the truth, but sometimes they can say it at the wrong time. Sagittarius is known for being very blunt. They will just say whatever they're thinking, and it might be like, wow, you
Mm-hmm.
should have read the room on that one.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
as a
Uh-huh.
Sagittarius, I can attest to that. I've definitely put my foot in my mouth several times.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
being just more aware of the environment you're speaking in, Sagittarius, for what you want to say. Also, sometimes can be self-righteous. They want everyone to kind of convert to their moral code, to their belief
Mm-hmm.
system, to their ideas, because they feel like, well, my idea is the best idea. Why wouldn't you want to agree with me?
Yeah. We don't need other ideas. I got mine. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's something with Sagittarius. Capricorns are worker bees. I mean, they are very interested in building something that's going to last. They
Mm-hmm.
are curious. They are hardworking. They are disciplined. And they do want to achieve success. Whatever they decide to do, they want to be successful at it. They don't want
Mm-hmm.
to just be kind of middle of the road. They want to be the best. Shadow side of Capricorn, because they are so focused on work and achievement and being disciplined, they can come across as insensitive. Some people that, oh, Capricorns are, they're kind of cold, they're so serious. It's not that they're not sensitive, it's just not as comfortable for them to be in
To
their
show it.
emotions.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, Capricorns, you can lighten up a little bit. It's okay. The world isn't going to end if you don't put in those extra hours on the project.
Mhm. Okay.
You can blow off the night and go, go have pizza. It's okay. And you can cry sometimes too. It's not,
Mhm.
no one's going to think any less of you if you take that emotional time for yourself. Okay, we're almost there. Aquarius. Aquarius. Aquarius are super friendly. They love people. They like being a part of something bigger than themselves. They're very interested in equality and equity for all. They are very much the people that want all of humanity to thrive. So, yes, they are humanitarians and they're very focused on the future. They're very interested in what's coming next. These are not people who are sentimental. They're not like Cancer, who's like, but what about the good old days? Aquarius is like, well, that happened. Okay, on to the next thing. Shadow side of Aquarius, because they are so focused on what's coming next, they can detach really easily. So
Okay.
they might come across as cold sometimes because in Aquarius is like, whatever, you're in the past, I'm over it, you're dead to me. And they're already moving on. Whereas the
Okay. Yeah.
person's like, wait, didn't that relationship mean anything to you?
Right.
Because and they're very intellectual, Aquarius, right? So it's more like they're not hanging out in their feelings either as much. They're more
Mhm.
mentally, what's next? And let me process this and let's think about this. So yeah,
They don't like
again,
sitting in their emotions. Is that what you're
no,
saying? Okay.
right.
Yeah.
So an Aquarius too can be very rebellious. Sometimes they're that friend that's like devil's advocate. They kind of want to
Mhm.
say things just to get a reaction. They get a little thrill out of that. So yeah, with Aquarius, it's okay to, yeah, show a little more sensitivity sometimes and make sure you're using your rebelliousness for a good cause is what I would
Okay.
say. And
Yep.
lastly, our Pisces, last sign of the zodiac, Pisces, right? Like I said with you, the intuitives, very sensitive, feels everything because they absorb everything. You're just like a giant energy sponge and very sensitive, does feel their emotions, very open with their emotions. A shadow side of Pisces, though, the biggest thing, in my opinion, is the boundaries. Pisces have a really hard time setting boundaries because they don't want to hurt anyone's feelings or they don't want to let anyone down. So they have a really hard time saying no. But
Mhm.
as we know, boundaries are very important in protecting our own energy and protecting our own sense of peace. So we don't have to say yes to everything, Pisces. And let's see, yeah, that's everyone, right?
Okay.
But we also have, well, what sign is our moon in? What sign is our Venus in? What sign is our Mars in? Because those
Mhm.
are also important energies. Venus is the planet of love. So that's going to tell you what do you like in your relationships? Mars is the planet of
Yeah.
action. That's going to tell you how you initiate things. So we have the planets, then we have the signs that they're in, right? So just like, you're a Pisces,
Mhm.
meaning sun is in Pisces, but your Venus could be in Taurus, and that's a different sign. That's a different energy. That's why we're not as black and white as, yeah, I'm just a Pisces and I'm this, this, and this. It's like,
Yeah,
no,
there's just
there's
so
other
much more
stuff.
to it. Yeah, yeah. So you can't be
Exactly.
labeled by just that.
Right. And the rising sign, that literally means what sign was on the horizon, rising, right, at the moment of your birth.
Okay.
So that sets up the whole chart because then we know the rising sign is the sign that rules your first house. Then we'll know what sign rules your second house. And then we have the 12 houses
Okay.
that the chart is also divided into, and each
Yes.
house represents the area of life. When you look at your chart, you'll see a big circle in the middle. That's Earth.
Okay.
Then you'll
Yes.
see the glyphs. Those are the planets. You'll see a symbol next to the glyph, which is the zodiac. And then you'll see
Mhm.
the 12 houses, the chart divided into the 12 houses.
Into the 12 houses. All right, let's go
Great.
through all 12 houses. So if you guys are looking at your chart or you come back and listen to this again later, this is what each house means, because then we're going to figure out what falls within those houses as far as planets and other things. And that really is what's guiding us, right?
What informs us? Yes. So, right.
Informs us. Okay.
So, our first house, which is where the rising sign is, okay, that starts our first house, house of
Mhm.
self, literally our physical body, our physical appearance. our energy levels. That's first house. So that's the rising sign as
Yeah.
well. So, and your rising sign is how you come across to others. So kind of like people's first impressions of you
Okay.
are usually that first house, whatever sign that is, that energy. But it's also kind of how you look at the world and what your subconscious reactions are, usually that
Okay.
first house. Second house, house of money, how we earn money, how we spend money, possessions, ownership, and self-worth. Third house, house of communication, our local environment, so like our neighborhood, and also siblings, because if we have siblings when we're young, they're a part of our local environment. Those are some of the people we're
Yeah.
first
Okay.
interacting with. You can also throw other relatives in there, your cousins, aunts, uncles in the third house as well. Fourth house is our house of home, family, emotional conditioning, even like the house we grew up in, the house we live in currently, what we like our home life to be. That's fourth
Okay.
house. Fifth house is house of creativity. Okay. So self expression, confidence, romance, children. Okay. All house of creativity. Sixth house is house of health, service, our daily routines. So like the little daily routines and maintenance, things like brushing your teeth every day. That's a sixth house thing because you have to do that to maintain the health of your teeth, right?
Okay.
Pets also fall into the sixth house, and so does work. Like the daily work that we do, our work environment, who are our coworkers, what kind of work do we like to do? That's all sixth house. Seventh house is our house of partnerships, relationships, contracts, anything that is a one-on-one dynamic. That is seventh house. So yeah, marriage falls into there,
Okay.
but also a business partnership would also be seventh house. Eighth house. Eighth house is our house of intimate shared experiences and transformational experiences. Okay. Sex, death, and also other people's money, resources that get collected from other places. Like when somebody dies, you get an inheritance. That is an eighth house experience, to have money come to you from somewhere else.
Okay.
Also debt, loans, insurance. Those things also fall into the eighth house because it's
Okay.
money from other places. Ninth house is our house of philosophy, sometimes considered the house of God. It's a very spiritual house. It's the house of religion. It's also the house of our belief system, our morals, how we decipher what's right and what's wrong. It's also foreign travel or long distance travel, other
Yeah.
cultures, and higher education, right? So people who get, degrees, doctorates, and whatnot usually have something going on in their ninth house. 10th house, okay? This is how the public sees us. This is our house of public reputation, our public image, and our career, the legacy we leave behind, the main objective of what we set out to accomplish in life.
Okay.
11th house, house of friendships, groups, organizations, social justice causes. You could also put hopes and ideals into the 11th house. So like your aspirations, what do you hope for the future? What are your ideals? That's 11th house. And 12th house is our house of the subconscious. It is also the house of things that are hidden. It is the most private house that we have. So, for example, when I say house of things that are hidden, that's kind of ambiguous. What does that mean? So, like, if you're someone who's got your sun in the 12th house, you're very reserved. You don't feel comfortable having the spotlight. You don't feel comfortable getting a lot of attention. You're very private in who you share energy with. You hide yourself, literally.
Yeah.
12th house is also house of institutions or things that are isolated or
Yeah.
hidden, again, from the rest of society. So like prisons, hospitals, those things fall into the 12th house, because if you're in prison, you're hidden from the outside world.
Yeah.
You're secluded in some way.
Okay. So we've got the 12 houses. And then when you're reading it, you could determine by what planets fall in the houses. Are there certain things attached to each planet? So what I'm saying is she's going to look at your chart and say, oh, you've got Pluto in your 4th house or what. And then she'll tell you what that means for you in your life. That's why we're all different. Everything is lining up differently for us.
Right.
Okay. So tell us about these planets really quick.
Okay.
And what they affect.
We start with the personal planets. Okay. The 5 personal planets: the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And they're called the personal planets because they're literally closest to Earth, right? In orbit. Those are the planets that are like,
the energy pull is stronger.
Exactly. Okay. So we've got the sun, which is, yes, our ego self, our personality, for the most part, our core personality. Okay.
Because that's our main sign, our sun sign.
Right.
Okay.
Right. The moon, which is our emotional self, how we experience emotions, how we share emotions, what we need to feel emotionally safe and secure. Okay. That's the moon. Mercury, communication, how we communicate, how we learn, how we think, how we problem solve. Venus, how we love, how we show affection, how we relate to others. Mars, our drive, how we go after things, how we initiate, and maybe even our arguing style, our fighting style is Mars. Okay. Yeah. And also, the further out we get, the slower the planets start to move as well. So then we're going to get into the outer planets. We call them generational planets because they will stay in the same sign because they move so slowly for years at a time. So generations are literally born with like the same Pluto sign or the same Neptune sign.
Okay. So all of us Gen Xers, further planets were lined up the same for all of us,
Exactly.
right? Okay.
Right. So then we have Jupiter and Saturn, okay, which are, they're kind of in the middle. They're not super close, but they're also not as far out as the other planets. And they spend Jupiter spends 1 year in the same sign. Saturn spends about 2.5 years in the same sign. But Jupiter is our planet of expansion, okay, of increase, of good fortune, of abundance. And Saturn is the opposite. Saturn is our planet of restriction, of where we need to follow the rules, where we need to learn discipline. So Jupiter is like good cop, Saturn is bad cop. Jupiter just wants to, let's go as big as we can. And Saturn is like,
Saturn
nope,
reins it in like, no, you can't do that.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
That's their kind of dynamic. And then we get to the outer planets. We have Uranus, which is our planet of reinvention, liberation, sudden changes and breakthroughs, or in some cases, breakdowns. Uranus can do that. And then we have Neptune, which is our planet of transcendence. Neptune is like the anti-ego planet. It's the planet that has no boundaries. Let's just love each other. It's very spiritual. It's our intuition. It's our dreams, and can sometimes make things a little cloudy. Neptune can also kind of be smoke and mirrors. So where we might face confusion in our life or where we might lack clarity in our life, but ultimately where we can transcend and get to a place of higher understanding. And then we have Pluto. Pluto is our planet of transformation. Pluto is death and rebirth. Okay. And Pluto is also, we can call him the planet of crises because he's intense. He's usually a situation where you have a big loss in your life. We consider that a Pluto experience. And when we get into talking more about Pluto transits, that's usually something where you experience a loss, but that loss is necessary for reinforcing your inner strength. Yes. And to replace that with something better, for a rebirth to happen, a renewal to happen.
All right. So we've got our sign. We have our houses, and then we have planets within our houses. And this is very specific to each person at this point. So then when you're doing a reading, you're kind of go through the different houses where you see things jumping out to you like, oh, here's what looks like's going on here for you in your family life, in your career, your personality, whatever that is. Okay.
Right. Yes. And I do like to explain to people that nobody has planets in every single house. That's kind of impossible. So, I mean,
Yes.
it's very
I had
rare. Yeah.
I had
Your
two
chart
houses
was,
that had
yeah,
none. I only had two houses that had zero.
right.
I had
And
planets everywhere else in mine.
right. But your chart is definitely more rare, like very, very rare to have planets that spread out. Usually the planets, they're lined up in clusters. So like someone will have 3 planets in this house, 2 planets in this house, 1 planet here, one, whatever. But yeah, but sometimes the skies line up where it's very spread out and you might have, oh, I only have 2 houses that don't have anything. So you are really learning about all different kinds of life experiences.
The houses that may be empty on your chart.
Yeah.
What does that mean for that area of your life? Like, what could you just, in a very simple way, those aren't major life lessons you're going to learn. That doesn't mean that there's nothing going on in there at all.
Exactly.
But those are things that you didn't plan on focusing on in this life if it's empty.
Exactly. Your soul,
Okay,
it's like
so
your soul didn't sign up. I think
So
of
in
it as like you're
general,
going to college, you didn't sign up for those courses. Doesn't mean you're not going to experience those things. There's just not extra attention paid
that's not
to
heavily where you planned on focusing your life on.
exactly.
So would you say that if it's, say we're learning about the houses and our house is empty, but we've been focusing it on a lot this life? No, there's probably a pivot needed. These are the things you can find out from your chart. Like, why am I putting so much energy into my second house when I literally have no planets aligning in there? Right? And so then you look at the chart and you go, where are all my planets? What am I supposed to be doing? Right?
Right.
Is that what I'm
Right.
Okay.
However,
All right.
I mean, you will find probably not very likely that the empty house, someone's going to say, oh, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, that's kind of not been an issue for me, that empty house. No wonder I'm not really thinking about it. As opposed to, oh, why am I spending so much time? Most people, because again, we're naturally going to be drawn to
We're going to feel a
experiences
pull anyway to the other
where,
ones.
yes, where those
Yeah.
planets already are.
Yeah. Because okay, so she had told me, and I may put some bonus content here, you guys, at the end, so you can hear some clips from mine, so you can hear what it's like to get a reading and what kind of things she says to you. Because I know it can be confusing. Like, what is she going to say to me? You know what I mean? All right. So I'll leave some clips, but basically I had stuff all over except for 2 houses, which you said was kind of rare because I got a lot going on all over the place. You kind of explained to me, yeah, maybe you'll spend 5 years doing this and then you're going to switch. You're going to just go wherever your passions go, which is what I've done my whole life. I really focus on one thing. I go hard, I go in. And then when I feel a pull somewhere else, I leave it. I go somewhere else. I do something else, especially career wise. So that's what showed up in my chart. What else do you want to say about where our planets fall in our houses? Because that's really where the information's at, right?
Right. And so,
Yes.
So as I interpret the chart, okay, we start with the planet. What is this planet about? And then what sign is it in? So that's like the flavor. What is kind of like, what's the costume that this planet is wearing?
Right.
How is this planet going to behave based on the sign that it's in? And then what's the stage? What area of life is this playing out in? And that's what our house tells us.
So for mine,
or yours, yeah, we can do yours.
Just as an example, you guys, for where my sun is, because my son's in Pisces, right? Explain to them, because I can't explain it right. But it was how it lined up, because Pisces are generally known to be more introverted, is what you were telling me, right? Like, leave me alone. I like being alone, blah, blah, blah. But because of where my sun fell within the house, what did that mean? So
Jen has sun in Pisces, which, yes, generally Pisces is a very sensitive sign. So her personality, yeah, she's sensitive. She's an empath. She's very intuitive. She picks up on energy really easily because Pisces tends to get easily overwhelmed, which is why they tend to be more introverted. However,
need a lot of alone time. Yeah.
Right. Her sun is also in her 9th house. And it was very close to what we call the midheaven, which is the very top of her chart. And the 9th house and the midheaven are very extroverted houses. There's something about having your sun in those placements that does want to be seen, that and is here to be seen. She is meant to be a leader of some kind. Well, and I told her a spiritual leader, a creative leader because of the Pisces.
Yeah.
But that's why she feels that imbalance sometimes. If sometimes I am comfortable, I host a podcast, I can put myself out there.
Yeah. And so, like I had told her, this is why I have always considered myself, and this is what I mean. This is validation when you see your chart. When you think these things about yourself and then you see the chart, you're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because I consider myself an extroverted introvert. So at my core, I do feel introverted. I need a lot of alone time, but I totally love being extroverted at times, right? I love being social and being around people and doing the podcast and interviewing. And I love all of that. I just know that when I'm done with that, I'm going to need to shut down and I'm going to need that alone time again to recharge before I can do that again. So this is what I'm saying during our reading, you guys. You get validation for things you're already feeling. And then you're like, okay, well, that makes sense. I don't need to fight that. That's me. I need to just learn to do that, to give myself the rest in between. Right? So once you figure out where your things line up, it gives you a better indication of who you are, but the way you move through the world, if you're on your right path, right? I still haven't figured out my whole chart. I don't know what everything means, but I did find that everything you said to me felt very on point. It resonated with me when you said it. There was nothing in my chart where you said something and I was like, nope, that's wrong. That's wrong. No, I didn't feel that, which I'm sure some people do. Why do you think that is? If people don't think that matches them, have you had that happen?
Yeah, because they haven't accepted it yet.
Because they're in denial.
I know 100% the chart does not lie.
Yeah.
And
so
I
if
actually,
you're saying,
well, I'm just going to tell just a quick story of a client I had who she booked a reading for a forecast reading. So not necessarily write a reading of a birth chart, but she was going through some heavy things and wanted to know, when's it going to get better? What can I plan for the year ahead? Right. And I had to be really honest with her. She had some hard transits. She did have a hard year coming up.
Yeah.
And she was very upset. She didn't want to hear, she wanted me to tell her everything was going to be okay. It's going to be fine. Right. But I'm reading the planets and I know the story and I was going to be honest with her about the story.
Yeah. Like you're going to go through some stuff first.
Yeah. And then she had been signed up for my email list after the reading. She took herself off the reading list. She was upset at the end. And, and that can happen. Where someone just isn't ready to hear what they need to hear. Then about a year later, she booked another reading. She had to say, I'm so sorry for being so upset with you because you were absolutely right. Everything you said played out. And it was hard, but at the same time, I know because you explained it to me that this was necessary for me to go through this, to have these experiences, to then have this transformation. But yeah, she kind of just wanted to apologize because she was like, I didn't want to hear it at the time. I wasn't ready to hear it.
No, we don't like to hear bad things. We want to get on and you say, oh, you have tons of money coming your way and love in the horizon. Yeah, that's what we want to hear. But that's not like necessarily what you're.
But ultimately, she was thankful.
Well, she came out the other side.
And she knew how to navigate it easier.
Yeah.
Because I had prepared her. And I did. I gave her tips like, this is what you can do to make it better, to not have it feel so heavy. These are the things you can lean into, So, but yeah. So, and sometimes even just a natal chart, sometimes people aren't ready to hear. Where maybe they've, like if you've got someone who's got a super Aries chart or something where it's just like 5 planets in Aries and maybe they just really do struggle with being reactive and impulsive and argumentative. And sometimes people don't want to hear that about themselves, even though, listen, there's great things about Aries energy as long as you're channeling it properly. And that's true of all the signs.
So you aren't just your zodiac sign. That's why getting into this natal chart a little deeper is such a good idea, because you're not just that one little label. Yes, you're not just your sun sign. You have so many other things going on that you planned. And you can't be mad at anybody for your natal chart, you guys. Like she just gave the example, because you planned this damn thing. Okay.
There is something about
Listen, we planned to be born at that time with everything lined up just like that for a reason. And we might not always remember what that reason is, but we did. So it's someone's fault what's going on in your natal chart. You gotta look in the mirror again, guys, and do some work. By knowing these things, do you have people that ever come to you like that say, I'm trying to figure out who I match best with romantically. I'm trying to figure out how to deal with my kids who are all different signs. Because are there certain ones that just conflict with each other naturally?
Yes. Yes. We like to look at the elements, right? So we have fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. We have earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. We have our water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, and our air signs, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. Okay.
Yes.
So these elements, some are more compatible with others, right? Obviously, the same element, right? Water sign and a water sign. Yeah, they're going to get along, right? Water signs and earth signs. Yeah, earth and water, complementary. Water nourishes earth. But then let's say water and air. Water and air, they're not really helping each other out as much. Water and fire, water puts out fire. So that ideally, elementally, not the greatest match.
So there are ones that match and don't match, but regardless, if you dig into your chart and you understand yourself better, you'll know how to deal with any of the other signs.
Exactly.
Right. So it's not like, oh, I'm a water and I'm married in air. I better get divorced. No, we just need to understand ourselves. And that's the same with our kids, our grandkids. Understanding their stuff can help. And your own is like, okay, well, here's how we need to communicate.
Right.
I got to work on my shadow side and they got to work on theirs. Yeah.
Yeah. And also too, that's just if we're looking at sun signs. Let's say, well, I'm a fire sign and he's a water sign, so maybe we shouldn't be together. No, because guess what? We could look at your moon sign and your Venus sign.
Yeah, and that could be totally compatible.
Is compatible. Yes. And actually that's what.
Because it's energy where we're not supposed to be attracted to people that are terrible for us, right? I mean, there should be some kind of balance going on. It's very complex. Listen, you're going to pull up your natal chart and there's little signs all over the place. And you're going to be like, I have no idea what's going on here. This is why getting a reading is so helpful from an expert who knows what they're talking about, because then you're not making assumptions that aren't true about yourself and others. And I recommend it.
Yeah. And a quick disclaimer too, just really quick, because I know, AI is out there, right? Our chat GPT is out there.
Yes.
People are using it for astrology. People are saying, this is my birth time. What can you tell me about my chart? And chat GPT is going to spit out a bunch of information to you. However, because as an astrologer, I have played with chat just to kind of see like, well, what's chat GPT? Yeah. Is this even accurate? It's not always accurate, you guys. Chat GPT is not 100% because I will put some, and it'll be like talking about Cancer, but it will be saying qualities that are of Taurus. And I'm just like, that's wrong. So, but if someone didn't know that, they're going to think that that's accurate.
Just go with it. Like, because I feel like there is a lack with AI too. When we're talking and you're reading mine, you're also getting my energy, my vibe, human to human. So it's very different because for me, I do go off my intuition and the vibes I get from people and situations. All right. Well, ChatGPT can't do that. They just can't. So I want to talk about these transits because you guys are going to see in your chart all these lines going all over. Some are green, some are red, some are blue. There's a lot to this. We can't possibly talk about it all today. But I do want to talk about.
There's so much.
It's just so much, you guys. So dig in. You have a podcast, right? Yes. Okay. Go listen to that. There's plenty of information, but I want to go into some transits that are common for us midlifers. Because you had told me there was something that it really only comes back into alignment when you're in your early 50s, for all of us. So there are reasons energetically why certain phases of our life are how they are.
Exactly.
It's literally part of the whole chart, you guys. It's part of our plan, the cosmic energies lining up a certain way. So just tell us, what is a transit?
So a transit is when we are reading how the planets in the sky right now, so where they are today, where they are a month
Mhm.
from now, and we are comparing them to the planets in your natal chart. And they make what we call aspects. Okay. And these
Mhm.
aspects, there are more positive aspects and there are challenging aspects. And it gets a little bit into math because we're talking about degrees, the degrees the planets are at, and what kind of angle they are forming. So we've
Yes.
got conjunctions, which is when the planet is in the same sign and exactly lined up with the planet in your natal chart. So let's say you've got the sun in Aries and today the moon is in Aries. That moon today is conjunct your sun. And yes, that means something. You might be feeling more sensitive on that day or, more moody because it's
So the
moon.
chart is exactly how things were when you were born. But
Your
then
natal,
when you
yeah,
overlay that with where everything is located right now
yeah,
today
yes,
in your life, that's how you can help people know you're going to have a rough year. You're
exactly.
gonna like what did you told me from the middle to end of summer this year, I'm gonna have a boost of a higher vibe energy. It's gonna be
Yep.
easier to manifest things. I'm gonna be feeling good about a lot of things come mid to late summer. So
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to that.
Right.
But so tell us about the transits that typically happen for all of us
Hmm.
around midlife. Let's talk about this midlife thing because most of my listeners are midlifers and are probably going to experience these feelings. Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
Okay.
starting in our early 40s, okay, for some people, even around age 39, but our early 40s, early to mid 40s, we have three major transits.
Okay.
And then in our 50s, we have another one. But the ones I want to talk about first are we have the Neptune square, which is where Neptune in the current sky will be making what we call a square aspect to Neptune in your natal chart.
Okay.
So it's Neptune, Neptune. So it brings out all the shadow qualities of Neptune, which is confusion, imposter syndrome, questioning everything you've ever done in your life. Yeah, but the key word being
Oh God, yeah,
confusion.
that sounds like the 40s for sure.
Right. So that's the first one. Okay. Your
Yep.
early
Okay.
40s. And actually, we've got the Neptune square Neptune, then we've got Pluto square Pluto. So same thing. Pluto is going to be squaring Pluto in your natal chart.
Okay.
And the Neptune square and Pluto square actually kind of happen simultaneously. I'm 41. I am in both right now. I'm in my Pluto
Okay.
square and my Neptune square.
Oh boy. Okay.
So yeah, and then the Pluto square, Pluto, remember what did I say? Transformation, death, rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
So usually we got a crisis. Early
Yep.
40s, some kind of crises that
Mm-hmm.
is usually painful or challenging in some way, but it's some kind of loss. It's something we got to let go of, whether we want to or not,
A
because
death, divorce, health
yes,
problems.
a
I don't
death
know.
of
Stuff like
something,
that.
right? Death of a job, death of a marriage, death of
Mm-hmm.
a loved one. I mean, it
Something.
can be anything, right? But it forces us to write because when you've got a crisis, you got to dig down deep, inner strength. And you've got
Mm-hmm.
to prove to yourself, I can survive this. I can get myself out of this. And then usually, yeah, we come out on the other side and we are transformed from that experience and we're
Yes.
transformed for the better. And we have more sensitivity, we have more wisdom, we have more life experience that we can share with others to help them when they have to go through a similar thing.
Okay.
And that's what it's about. It's about giving back. How do I
So the
use?
planets are literally changing our vibes, our
Yeah,
vibration in midlife.
right.
Okay.
Right.
This makes
So you've
sense.
got
Yeah.
those two. Okay. That's like
Mm-hmm.
between 40, 42. Then around our mid 40s. Okay. So like 45, 46, sometimes 44, we have the Uranus opposition. So that's when
Mm-hmm.
Uranus opposes Uranus in our natal chart. And Uranus is that liberation. I got to change things out. You'll have this urge, right? Just to like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do things the same way anymore. And that really is the crux of what we do call the midlife crisis. It's usually that Uranus transit. It's like, people do. They go, I want to change careers. I got to divorce this person. I got to do this. I got to
Yeah.
reinvent
So
myself.
this is the time. So we can just blame it on Uranus. But so what's happening is we're deciding I'm done with this shit. I'm changing. I want to grow. I want to transform. And like a lot of our midlife spiritual journey people listening, this is why a lot of times we do head into these moments and these journeys now, because we feel that pull. We're like, I can't keep doing things the same way. I want to finish a little bit stronger than this. I'm not going to keep doing this.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's a time to break out of your rut. And that's what Uranus says. And usually it's very sudden energy. It's like a lightning bolt. It's not something I've been thinking about. It's like, I have this idea and I have to do it. You can't wait. You've got to make
And
some
this
changes.
probably lines up, like you said, mid 40s, whatever, because at the beginning of your 40s, you had that shit go down.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
You're confused.
That went
You're like,
down.
what's happening?
So that's why you're not going to mamby-pamby about making changes. Nope, you're making changes.
And it's going to then, but more personally for each individual, what these events can also look like will depend on what sign, right, is that planet in? And again, what house is it in for you? So majority of Gen X has Uranus either in Libra or Scorpio. Okay. And then now we're in elder millennials who, right, early 40s now, we've got Uranus in Sagittarius. Okay. And then actually all of Gen X and millennials have, elder millennials have Neptune in Sagittarius. That's the same for all of us because it's a 14-year period. So Pluto, for most of Gen X, you've got Pluto in Libra. Okay. And then elder millennials are going to have the Pluto in Scorpio. Okay. So what does that mean? All those things. Well, the Neptune square Neptune in Sagittarius. That means part of the confusion is around what are my beliefs? And it's very spiritual for Gen X and elder millennials.
Gen X.
Because Sagittarius is a spiritual sign. So there's confusion around like, what have I been taught? What is my spirituality? Or do I believe in God? Do I believe in a greater power? What are my core beliefs? That could be something that comes up for the Neptune square. Then with the Pluto and Libra, okay, a lot of Gen X, that was about relationships, some kind of relationship crises, or where there wasn't balance, or there was or difficulty in a marriage. I don't know, but something related to relationships, most likely. And then the Uranus for the Gen Xers who have Uranus and Libra, also relationships. There was a huge amount of people who, with that placement, decided to get divorced in their mid-40s because it was Uranus in Libra. I got to break out of this partnership, or I got to change this partnership. And then some of Gen X then has the Uranus in Scorpio. So that was even changing sexual preferences. Scorpio also rules sexuality. So for them, maybe in their mid-40s, they were like, maybe I am gay, or maybe there's different things I want to experiment with my sexuality, or just being more interested in more spiritual subjects, deeper subjects, and maybe going through just like a really intense transformation because of the Scorpio Uranus. Yeah. And then Uranus in Sagittarius too for elder millennials. Again, back to that spirituality. What are my beliefs? How do I think about my existence? What's my purpose? I need to be living my life differently so I can align more powerfully with this. And then too, the last step is, and this is what we would do in your reading, is then, well, what house? And then what house is that planet in? So how is this playing out in your life? Maybe if it's a breakup, it's Uranus in your 11th house. It's a friendship breakup. Or it's Pluto's in your second house. It's a money crisis. You lost a lot of money during your Pluto square Pluto, so that's.
So we're all going through these things. But then when you dig deeper into our chart, you can tell better what exactly that's looking like just for us, like which house is most affected by it. Okay. We're all going through it, but it looks a little bit different
there
for
will
each
be
of us.
some
And that's
similarities because of the sign, but the house is that's what's different.
Like we're not all getting divorced in our mid 40s.
No.
We're not all changing careers. We're not all, deciding we're gay. Whatever it is that's going on, it's lined up in the chart, you guys. It's there. The information is there to access. Just so you know, if you're wondering what yours is looking like, it's in the chart. Yeah.
Right.
You need
And
to get a reading and
then,
figure it out. Yeah.
then our early 50s, like literally around age 50, we have our Chiron return. And
Our
Chiron,
my Chiron has returned. Tell us about it.
and Chiron is actually not a planet, but Chiron is an asteroid. And for those of you who have pulled up your charts, it's the little symbol. It kind of looks like an upside down key.
An upside down key. Okay.
Yeah, that's Chiron in your chart. Chiron is the wounded healer. It's an asteroid known as the wounded healer, which represents a deep wound that we are meant to heal in this lifetime. And this wound comes from past lifetimes. It's something we were meant to feel shame about, something we were meant to feel badly or insecure about. And sometimes this wound actually gets reopened in our early childhood. We have some kind of experience as a child that reopens that wound and makes us aware of it. And, you know, and then.
So like generational traumas.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
A little bit. So the age 50, that Chiron comes all the way back around to where it was when you were born. So, right. So people who are 50 right now, Chiron in Aries. You were born with Chiron in Aries. And this is a time in your life where you are meant to heal those wounds around taking the lead, about fighting for what you believe in, taking the initiative. You know, that's what the wounding is. It's not, it's feeling shame around going for it, being competitive, voicing my opinion, not being afraid what other people think. Because somewhere in your life, you were told that's wrong, that's bad. People don't like that. You're too aggressive. You're too bossy. You're too this, whatever it is.
Okay, then the Chiron comes back around and we say, oh, hell no.
Right. You're usually given an opportunity to lean into that energy. So for you guys, lean into that Aries. You know what? I'm not going to let this person walk all over me. I am going to stand up for myself. Or, you know what? I'm not going to take the back seat. I am going to start that business that I've always wanted to start. I'm going to take the action that I've been afraid to.
Okay. So this Chiron, this little upside down key, is actually our key to like move forward,
and
heal from the things we need to heal from, and stop listening to everyone else because we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And, you know, and obviously, if you get your chart reading before your 50s, you can start working on that Chiron now.
Well, wouldn't that be nice? I didn't do that. But if you're out there, you know, in your 30s and 40s, maybe get this chart going, you guys. So you can figure out what's coming. Maybe you can save yourself a little drama. I like this little upside down key. That feels like a tattoo to me now. I don't know. I don't even have any yet, but I think that could be a cool tattoo you get in your 50s. Anyway, that just popped in my head.
Very cute.
Okay, so the old Chiron. What else?
Yeah, so Chiron, and just in case people are like, "Whoa, mine isn't in Aries." Yeah, so if you were born after 1974, you're going to have Chiron in Taurus.
In Taurus, okay.
Right? So late Gen X or elder millennials have Chiron in Taurus. I'm a Chiron in Taurus, and that's about wounds around financial security and self-worth.
Okay.
So you were meant to feel like your talents weren't special enough, or maybe that money is bad, or it's bad to want to be financially wealthy. It's bad. Then that means you're a snob. It means you're this. So for us, that's healing that, getting comfortable with money, removing the stigma of money. Understanding that money is just energy. It is not good or bad. It just exists, and it is a tool for us, right?
Yeah.
And self-worth. We are worthy regardless of what's our job, where do we live, how big is our house. That's all external validation that isn't necessary.
Yes. Okay. So I kind of feel like I identify with both. So I was born in 73, which puts me on the cusp of both of these guys. Yeah. Okay, a little bit. And if you haven't hit your Chiron, you know, around 50 years old, if you're in your late 30s, if you're in your 40s right now, get to work on it now.
Yeah.
And then maybe you won't have to worry about as much. You'll be like flying free by the time you're in your
Right.
50s.
And your
That's a good idea.
Chiron too is how it's where you're supposed to help others heal as well. Because it's like you
Yeah.
heal it for yourself, and then that's how you give back.
Help heal others.
So
Okay.
who's coming to me in my life who also has issues around self-worth or taking the initiative or, whatever it is. How do I help them with my wisdom?
Yes. Okay. Gosh, we can find out so much from our charts, you guys. Now
And
there's
it's like,
just so many things at any age. It doesn't matter when you get in your chart.
oh,
It's
doesn't
going to
matter.
be amazing. I don't know. I really felt like validated too.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I'm in my 50s and it was like, yep, that makes sense. Like that all makes sense. I'll drop some bonus content from my reading so you guys understand a little bit more of what happens during the reading. What's the difference between the two different versions of readings they can book online for you?
So you can book just a natal chart reading analysis, right? Which is where, and I offer a 60-minute and a 90-minute, just depending on, how deep you want to go.
How deep you want to get into it.
How much energy you want to expend.
I did 90, you guys, because you know me. I like to go deep. Okay. Yeah. But you don't have to. All right.
So that is the natal chart analysis is just, yes, that interpretation of your natal chart, getting into your rising sign, what houses are being activated, and when I talked about the aspects, we have those in our charts as well. So maybe you've got planets squaring each other, and maybe we need to help them get along a little bit better. That might be where you're hitting roadblocks and challenges and you don't know why. It's because, you were born with these planets and they've got to work it out. They can't work it out if you're not aware what needs to be fixed. So, and my method is I don't just do, okay, this planet, then this planet. I do what stands out to me the most.
What stands out in the chart. Yeah, that's what you did in mine.
What is going to be the most beneficial? Yeah, I could tell you every single thing about all your planets, but
which is what my other reading did, and it just left me dazed and confused. All right. I prefer this method where you're looking at the chart saying, ooh, here's what's popping out for me. And then people can ask you questions too, right? Would that be in this reading or the other one? Or could someone say like, all right, I'm making this career decision. Where do you see my love life going? I don't know. And you can pull that out of the chart and say, this is what I'm seeing happening.
Right. And I do too. There's a little intake form when you book your reading. There's some questions. So you can answer them if you want to. You don't have to, but if there is something specific you want some guidance on, I ask. I say, is there anything you're looking for clarity on right now? And you could say, yeah, I'm changing jobs or whatever it is. And then ahead of time, I'll know to look for whatever that thing is. So yeah, that's the natal chart analysis. Towards the end, I do just a brief little, this is kind of what's coming up for you. Just,
yes, that's what you told me. That's when you told me about this summer. I think you pinpointed it will be entering on August 4th. You knew the date that my transit would be going down. So that was fun.
And then there is what I call the cosmic checkup, which that is just not so much interpreting the natal chart, but that is, I want to know what's coming up for me the year ahead. I want to know, what are my transits? What can I plan for? And this is actually really good if you have a specific goal in mind. Like, I really want to sell my house and move to Europe. When is the best time of year for me to do that?
Make a big change.
We can look at that. Yeah. Or you can just get a roadmap of what you can expect for the year ahead. These months might be a little bit bumpy. This is how you can prepare for that. Ooh, this is where you're having really good luck come in. This is when you want to take advantage of that. This is when you might want to do X, Y, or Z to reap the benefits of this transit.
Yeah. If you are in a darker spot, like she says, you got 3 months here that are going to be kind of rough. What's nice about knowing that is there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not stuck in this for my life. Things are moving. These planets are moving. The energies are constantly changing. We aren't stuck in one thing. But it is nice to hear, I got better things coming.
And then also for people who really, really want to go as deep as possible, I do have, it's called the Ready to Rise experience. And that is a 4-week program where we meet weekly for 1 hour. So it's 4 sessions. We start with the personal planets. We work our way into the outer planets, but we're able to spend more time. and go much more in depth than if you're just
Okay, if
getting
you're
the
really one of
one.
those people who's like, I want to know
Yeah,
everything.
right.
Yeah, I want to know
hmm
all about me.
Well,
Yeah, because you guys, I mean, believe what we're saying or not out there, you guys, but these charts line up. They really do. Amazingly, because like I said, in mine, different things would come up and it was like, yeah, that makes sense. Yep. That seems real. So if you guys are into this, you've heard a little bit, we couldn't touch on everything. You're going to want to book something with her. Okay. You're going to want to get your natal chart read. And also I'm going to put this in the show notes, but we've got a special code to give you
yeah.
15% off your first natal chart reading. Is it just for the natal chart reading?
It's for natal chart readings, cosmic checkup. And if you are someone who the Ready to Rise experience, if that kind of is perking your ears up, email me about that, because you don't book that through the website, that you book through me
No, you got
directly.
to kind of talk that through a little bit. Yeah.
But the one-time readings, yes, you can book directly on the website. Just put in the code at checkout, and yeah, you're good to go.
Okay. But it sounds like our homework. Here's what we need to do out there. A, if you don't know what time you were born, you need to figure that out, because that's going to give you more specifics. Do you have
It
to?
is the
Like she
best.
said, no, you could guesstimate. But if you want to really know the deal, you're going to want to know that time. So you're going to have to look at your birth certificate. Or if you don't have your birth certificate, I've had friends that I've said, you need to go figure this out. And so they've gone to the courthouse, paid the $15 to get a copy of their birth certificate, so you know the exact time. Then you can start digging in. Again, we've got that astro.com. You may have pulled it up already to listen to the show, or maybe you just wanted to listen and now you're going to go pull that up and start looking at your chart. So you can start seeing some of these things yourself. You can see where, this is right, where your sun and your moon, all these things are, but you're really not going to fully understand it. And again, AI, they'll tell you a little bit, but don't just trust it, is what we learned today. You're going to want to find a real astrologer to walk you through this whole thing.
Right. Because there's
then,
so many nuances, that AI is
so
not.
many little things where it's like, oh, well, it's that, but no, I have this going on. And it's very specific and it's very cool. And again, I think this is an important part. If you're on this midlife spiritual journey, you heard about all these transits we got going on right now, you guys. So this is a really important time to dig into this and to really figure things out, get a better understanding, and finish strong. That's what we're doing here. Okay. Well, Tara, this has been good. Do you have anything we didn't go over that people need to know about how things are lining up?
We talked about a lot of great stuff today. And
yes,
I hope that our listeners are walking away with a better understanding of what astrology is in general.
Yes. And how it can be helpful to your life.
Yes, absolutely.
It's not for when you stop at a bar and someone asks you what your sign is, guys. No, this is not what this is all about. This is to get a better understanding of you and what you were meant to do and plan to do in this lifetime, and how to stay on track with that a little bit.
Right. And the last thing I will say, because so many people don't know this, the horoscopes you see in magazines or online, those horoscopes are not written for your sun sign. They are written for your rising sign. So if you are like, I'm a Sagittarius sun.
Wait, have we been reading the wrong one?
Probably.
Okay, wait. So you see these little, horoscopes. So I go straight to the Pisces and read it. What other one should I be reading?
You should be reading your rising sign.
I should be reading my rising sign. You guys, we might be misguided here. Dang it. No, that's good
Start
information.
Reading for your rising sign. And you're probably going to go, that makes more sense. But you do need to know your rising sign, which means you got to know your rising sign.
So again, you're going to need to get to that natal chart so you know what your rising sign is, because that's more important. Okay, good to know. Now I get it.
That's a little astrology secret that a lot of people don't realize. But
I feel like almost nobody knows that.
Yeah.
No. All right. I got a whole different horoscope to read now. Holy moly. Well, thank you so much, Tara. This has been good. We've given you guys some information. I hope you don't feel overwhelmed by it. It's really just start in bite-sized pieces, you guys. Just start learning about it and then get the reading so you can get a full understanding of yourself. And then after the reading, you can continue to grow and learn from it, because then it's easier when you're listening to podcasts or reading a horoscope or whatever to know what the heck you're supposed to be looking at. All right. Well, thank you, Tara. And feel free to come back anytime.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Listen, I know your time is valuable. And right now, I'm feeling super grateful and totally humbled that you chose to hang out with me today. If this podcast resonates with you, could you do me a solid and hit that subscribe or follow button? That's going to help you out because you're never going to miss an episode. And it helps me out because you're never going to miss an episode. And if you have like 30 seconds more, could you leave a 5-star rating and maybe leave a kick-ass review? Thank you so much, and I can't wait to continue our journey on the next episode. Oh, and I can't forget the fine print. You know, the legal jargon. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We're just two friends on this journey together, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or any other qualified professional. You get it. See you next time.